A moving story of redemption, love, passion, and new beginnings, where a millionaire had a secret passion for his young son's nanny. He makes a decision that would change his entire life, giving the nanny a kiss. She froze. But before telling this story, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. Now continuing, the coffee smelled of routine and postponed dreams. Emily wiped the counter for the 10th time that morning, her fingers already calloused from the repetitive work that barely paid the bills. The establishment sat on a busy corner where hurried executives mingled with sleepy students, all seeking their next dose of caffeine. While serving another steaming cup, her eyes fell on a newspaper forgotten by a customer. Headlines about the Blackwells, the city's most powerful family, occupied the front page. At home, her reality was quite different from the luxurious headlines. Margaret, her mother, slept restlessly in the back bedroom, her arthritis pain increasingly frequent. Danny, her younger brother, had disappeared 3 days ago, taking with him what little money Emily kept under her mattress. It was always the same pattern. He would disappear, return remorseful, promise to change, and the cycle would begin again. "Another coffee, please." The deep voice of a customer brought her back to the present. Emily looked up, meeting the tired face of an elegant, older woman. "And could you tell me where to find the employment agency on Acacia Street?" Emily's heart quickened. For weeks she had been looking for a better job, something that could offer a bit more dignity to her family. "It's 2 blocks from here, ma'am. Actually," she hesitated for a moment, "I myself am looking for other opportunities." The woman smiled, an enigmatic smile that seemed to hide more than it revealed. "Really? And do you have experience with children?" "I've taken care of my brother since he was little, and sometimes I watch the neighbors' children." "Interesting." The woman removed a card from her Italian designer handbag. "Perhaps this might interest you. My son is looking for a nanny. The salary is substantial." Emily took the card with trembling hands. The name engraved in golden letters made her stomach knot. Nathan Blackwell, Chief Executive Officer. That evening, after changing from her cafe uniform into her only formal dress, Emily found herself before the imposing gates of the Blackwell estate. The impeccably maintained garden seemed to extend infinitely. The central fountain spurted, crystal clear water, creating a soft melody that contrasted with the sepulchral silence of the property. A stern-faced housekeeper led her through corridors decorated with artwork that probably cost more than her entire life. With each step, Emily felt the weight of not belonging in that place. Her nails, though clean, betrayed years of manual labor. Her dress, bought on clearance 3 years ago, seemed even simpler under the light of crystal chandeliers. The office. Door opened, revealing a tall man dressed entirely in black. Nathan Blackwell had the kind of presence that made the air feel denser. His eyes, a deep brown, seemed to pierce the soul of whoever met them. Emily felt an involuntary shiver when he greeted her with a restrained nod. "Please, sit down." His voice was controlled, as if each word was measured before being pronounced. "My mother told me about you." Emily adjusted herself in the leather chair, trying to maintain an upright posture. "I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Blackwell." "Nathan," he corrected her, a flash of something indefinable passing through his eyes. "The situation is delicate. My son Ethan needs special care. His mother—" He paused as if the following words were difficult to pronounce. "She left us a few weeks ago. Ethan hasn't been reacting well." Emily's heart tightened. She knew well the weight of maternal absence, albeit in a different way. "How old is he?" 4. Nathan stood up, walking to the window overlooking the garden. "He barely speaks anymore. He hides, has nightmares." Turning to Emily, his gaze had a disturbing intensity. "I need someone who can help him feel safe again. May I meet him?" Nathan nodded, guiding her through more corridors until they reached a room decorated with childish themes. In the furthest corner, partially hidden behind a curtain, was Ethan. The boy was the image of his father in miniature, except for his eyes, large, frightened, carrying a kind of sadness no child should know. Emily approached slowly, sitting on the floor at a safe distance. "Hi, Ethan, I'm Emily." She noticed a red toy car near the boy's feet. "What a beautiful car you have there. Did you know my brother had one just like it when he was little?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, very slowly, Ethan moved the car a few inches toward her. He didn't speak or smile, but it was enough. Emily felt Nathan's intense gaze upon her, observing every movement. "Can you start?" The question came loaded with barely disguised urgency. "Tomorrow itself," Emily responded, not taking her eyes off Ethan. "I just need to notify the cafe." "I'll settle your salary today. It will be double what was initially proposed." Nathan spoke like someone closing an important deal. "But I have one condition." Emily finally looked at him, meeting those eyes that seemed to hold thousands of secrets. "Which is?" "Absolute discretion. What happens inside this house stays here. No photos, no comments, nothing about—" He hesitated. "Nothing about journalists." At that moment, Emily should have noticed the signs. The heavy silence of the house, the fear in Ethan's eyes, the conditions imposed by Nathan. But all she saw was the chance to give her mother a better life, perhaps help her brother to make a difference in that frightened boy's life. "You have my word," she promised, not knowing that those two words would seal her fate. When Emily left the mansion that night, the full moon illuminated the gardens with an almost supernatural silvery light. At the gate, she looked back one last time. In the office window, Nathan's silhouette remained motionless, observing her departure. For an instant, their gazes met across the distance, and something indefinable passed between them, something that made Emily's heart race and her hands tremble slightly. What she didn't know, as she walked to the bus stop, was that Nathan remained at the window long after she had disappeared into the night. His fingers absent-mindedly caressed a yellowed envelope hidden in his desk drawer, a letter never sent, containing secrets that could destroy everything he had built. And in his room, Ethan hugged the red car, whispering for the first time in 5 weeks, "She's coming back?" Emily's first day at the mansion began before sunrise. After leaving coffee prepared for her mother and an affectionate note explaining the details of her new job, she caught the first morning bus. The driver, who already knew her from the cafe routine, raised his eyebrows seeing her get off in the wealthy neighborhood, but made no comments. The mansion seemed different in the morning light, less intimidating perhaps, but still carrying that air of mystery that made Emily feel as if she were entering another world. Mrs. Rodriguez, who introduced herself as the housekeeper, received her with the same stern expression as the day before. "The boys' room is on the second floor. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 7 p.m. Mr. Blackwell usually doesn't take meals at home." She stopped before a small room at the end of the service corridor. "This will be your bedroom. Mr. Blackwell insists that the nanny sleep in the mansion during the week." Emily left her small suitcase on the simple but comfortable bed. The room, though modest compared to the rest of the house, was larger than her own room at home. A window offered a view of the back gardens, where an old tree cast shade over an abandoned swing. "Ethan wakes up early," continued Mrs. Rodriguez, checking her watch, "and he doesn't like strangers in his room. I suggest you start slowly." If to confirm the housekeeper's words, a sharp scream cut through the morning silence. Emily instinctively ran toward the sound, taking the stairs 2 at a time. In the upstairs hallway, she found Nathan already leaving his room, his normally impeccable hair slightly disheveled, revealing a different man behind the controlled facade. "Nightmares," he muttered more to himself than to Emily. Every morning, Ethan was curled up in a corner of the room, his small hands covering his ears, his eyes tightly shut. Nathan took a step toward him but stopped when he saw his son curl up even more. The pain on his face was palpable. Emily approached slowly, sitting on the floor as she had done the day before. "Hey, Ethan, remember me? We talked about toy cars yesterday." Her voice was soft, almost musical. "Did you know that when I have nightmares, I like to hear stories? Would you like to hear one?" Slowly, very slowly, Ethan opened his eyes. His gaze quickly passed over his father before fixing on Emily. She began telling the story of a little red car that dreamed of flying, making gentle gestures with her hands. Gradually, The boy's shoulders relaxed. Nathan observed the scene with an intensity that made the air seem denser. When Ethan finally allowed Emily to come closer, an almost imperceptible sigh escaped his lips. "I need to go," he announced, adjusting his tie. "I have an important meeting." But before leaving, his eyes met Emily's. "Thank you," he said so quietly she almost didn't hear. There was something vulnerable in his voice, something that made her heart skip a beat. The following days established a routine. Emily discovered that Ethan, despite his silence, was an attentive observer. He followed her around the house like a small shadow, always keeping a safe distance, but each day a little closer. She sang while tidying his toys, told stories during meals, and gradually the fear in his eyes began to give way to a cautious curiosity. Nathan, in turn, was an intermittent presence. Sometimes, Emily caught him observing from afar, while she played with Ethan in the garden. Other times he appeared late at night in the kitchen when she was preparing tea before bed. In these moments, a charged silence hung between them, full of unasked questions and unspoken words. It was on one of these nights that something changed. Emily was in the library looking for children's books for Ethan when Nathan entered. He seemed surprised to find her there but didn't leave. "He asked for a story today," Emily commented, breaking the silence. Not with words, but he brought a book to me. Nathan approached, picking up one of the books she had set aside. His fingers brushed hers for an instant, an accidental touch that sent shivers across her skin. It was his favorite, Before. His voice failed on the last word. "Before? What?" Emily asked before she could contain herself. Nathan's face closed instantly. "It doesn't matter." He put the book back on the shelf with unnecessary force. "Just continue doing what you're doing. He seems better." But Emily couldn't leave. It at that. Perhaps it was the late hour, or the forced intimacy of the dimly lit library, or simply the fatigue of carrying so many questions. "He's afraid of you. Why?" Nathan turned so abruptly that Emily took a step back, her back meeting the bookshelf. He advanced until he was dangerously close, his expensive cologne invading her senses. "Don't ask questions about things that don't concern you. Ethan concerns me now." She held his gaze, surprised by her own courage. "How can I help him if I don't know what hurt him?" For a moment it seemed Nathan would shout at her. His hands closed into fists, and a vein pulsed at his temple. But then something in his eyes changed. The anger gave way to a sadness so deep that Emily felt her heart ache. "I failed him," Nathan whispered, his voice laden with self-recrimination. "I should have seen the signs, should have realized she wasn't well." "His mother?" Nathan nodded, passing his hand over his face in a tired gesture. "Melissa had problems, postpartum depression that was never adequately treated. I was too busy with the company, with my public image, when I finally realized the gravity of the situation." He stopped as if the words physically hurt him. Emily, moved by an impulse she couldn't contain, lightly touched his arm. Nathan looked at her hand as if it was something alien, but he didn't move away. "What happened?" "She hurt him." The words came out as a breath of agony. Not physically, but she would lock him in a dark room for hours, said he was the reason for all her unhappiness. He was only 3 years old. Nathan abruptly moved away, as if Emily's touch burned him, and I wasn't there to protect him. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily felt tears burn her eyes, imagining the terror that sweet child had faced. "Where is she now?" "In a clinic in Switzerland. Intensive psychiatric treatment." Nathan laughed humorlessly. "The press thinks she left us for a lover. It's better that way. The truth..." He looked at Emily with an intensity that made her hold her breath. "The truth would destroy her reputation. The family's. Ethan doesn't need to carry that stigma." Emily took a step toward him, ignoring all the alarms sounding in her mind. "And who helps you carry this burden?" The question caught Nathan off guard. For a moment, his mask of control fell completely, revealing a man broken by guilt and loneliness. He was so close now that Emily could see the nuances of gold in his brown eyes, count each eyelash that cast shadows on his cheeks. "Why do you care?" His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. "Because everyone deserves to be cared for," she answered simply, "even those who think they don't deserve it." Time seemed to freeze. Nathan slowly raised his hand, his fingers hovering millimeters from Emily's face, as if he wanted to touch her but wouldn't allow himself. The air between them was charged with electricity, with dangerous possibilities. A noise in the hallway broke the moment, Mrs. Rodriguez's footsteps making her nightly rounds. Nathan backed away, as if he'd received a shock, his mask of control instantly returning. "It's late," he said dryly. "You should go to sleep." Emily nodded, picking up the book she had set aside. But before she could leave the library, Nathan's voice reached her, softer now. "Emily." She turned, her heart beating erratically. "Don't tell anyone what I said, please." There was vulnerability in his request, a fragile trust that she knew she could destroy with a wrong word. "Never," she promised. That night, Emily took a long time to fall asleep. Through her window, she could see the light in Nathan's office still on, a solitary sentinel in the darkness. In her chest, something new and dangerous began to bloom, something she knew she should fear, but which even so made her smile in the dark. The weeks turned into a month, and the Blackwell mansion began to change subtly. The oppressive silence gave way to small sounds of life. Ethan's contained laughter during playtime, the soft sound of the piano when Emily taught the boy basic notes. Even Nathan's footsteps seemed lighter through the corridors. On a particularly sunny morning, Emily decided to take Ethan out to play in the garden. The abandoned swing had been repaired at her insistence, and now the boy timidly ventured on it while she pushed him carefully. That's when she noticed Nathan watching from his office window, the phone forgotten in his hand. "Hiya," Ethan asked, his voice still low but firmer each day. Emily smiled, her heart warming with the boy's progress. The sound of heels on the stone path interrupted the moment. An elegant woman of about 60 approached with determined steps. Emily immediately recognized Evelyn Harrington, Nathan's former mother-in-law, from photos in society magazines. "So it's true," Evelyn declared, her cold eyes evaluating Emily from head to toe. "Nathan really hired a nanny." Ethan immediately shrank in the swing, his eyes wide with fear. Emily instinctively positioned herself between him and the newcomer. "Mrs. Harrington," Emily greeted politely, "Ethan was just—" "Spare me the explanations, dear." Evelyn cut her off with a dismissive gesture. "Ethan, come with Grandma, we need to talk about your future." Before Emily could react, Nathan appeared in the garden, his face a mask of controlled fury. "What are you doing here, Evelyn?" "Doing what you should have done months ago." She raised a folder of documents. "Requesting custody of my grandson. Clearly, you've lost control of the situation." Emily felt Ethan grab her skirt, trembling. Instinctively, she picked him up, whispering words of comfort in his ear. "Take your hands off my grandson." Evelyn advanced, but Nathan stopped her. "Enough!" His voice thundered through the garden. "Emily, take Ethan inside, now." As she moved away with the boy, Emily could hear the shouting begin. Evelyn accused Nathan of negligence, of exposing Ethan to inappropriate people. Nathan fought back, his voice laden with an anger Emily had never witnessed. In Ethan's room, while helping him calm down, Emily felt her own world begin to crumble. It was naive of her to think she could belong in this universe, even if only as a nanny. "Don't go away," Ethan whispered, clinging to her. "Please." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised, praying she could keep that promise. Hours later, when she finally got Ethan to sleep, Emily went downstairs to prepare her nightly tea. In the kitchen, she found Nathan sitting in the dark, a half-empty glass of whiskey in his hand. "She's going to try to take him from me," he said without looking at her, "using you as an excuse." Emily felt as if she'd been punched. "I can leave," she offered, though each word hurt. "If that helps." Nathan stood up abruptly, knocking over the glass. The amber liquid spread across the floor like blood. "Is that what you want? To leave?" "Of course not." The answer came before she could contain it. "But I can't be the reason Ethan loses his father." "You're the reason he's becoming a child again." Nathan advanced toward her, his eyes shining with raw emotion. The reason he's smiling again, talking, trusting. They were dangerously close now. Emily could feel the heat emanating from his body, the slight scent of whiskey on his breath. "Nathan," she began, but he interrupted her. "Don't you see? You brought life back to this house, to him, to me." Emily's heart was beating so hard, she was sure he could hear it. "Don't say that," she whispered. "Please." "Why not?" "Because it makes everything harder." Nathan raised his hand, his fingers gently tracing the line of her face. "What if I don't want it to be easy?" The touch sent shivers throughout her body. Emily closed her eyes, fighting against the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume her. "People like you don't end up with people like me." "People like me?" There was a touch of bitterness in his voice. "You think you know me?" "I know enough to know that this will only hurt everyone." Nathan let his hand fall, but he didn't step back. "Are you afraid of me?" "No," she answered honestly. "I'm afraid of what I feel for you." The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan looked at her as if seeing her for the first time, as if each of her words had broken another of his carefully constructed barriers. "Emily." Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. And then he kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was desperate, hungry, as if both had waited an eternity for this moment. Nathan's hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, while hers clung to his shirt. The world around them disappeared, reduced only to the sensation of their lips, to the heat of their bodies pressed against each other. When they finally separated, breathless, Emily could see the reflection of her own desire in his eyes. But there was also something else, fear perhaps, or guilt. "This shouldn't have happened," she murmured, though her entire body screamed the opposite. "No," Nathan agreed, his voice hoarse. "But it did." A noise upstairs made them separate. Abruptly, small footsteps. Ethan, probably having another nightmare. "I'll go," Emily said, straightening her clothes with trembling hands. "Emily." Nathan's voice made her stop at the door. "This changes everything." She didn't turn around. She couldn't, or she would lose all her resolve. "I know." Climbing the stairs toward Ethan's room, Emily could still taste Nathan on her lips, feel the warmth of his hands on her skin. She knew she had crossed a line from which there was no return. And the worst part, she wasn't sure if she wanted to go back. What she didn't see was Nathan still in the dark kitchen, picking up his phone and dialing a number he knew by heart. "I need the best lawyers," he ordered. "Evelyn won't win this battle, not this time." In Ethan's room, while rocking the boy back to sleep, Emily allowed a single tear to run down her face, because now she understood. Love sometimes wasn't enough. Sometimes it was just the beginning of a war. The days that followed the kiss were an exercise in self-control. Emily and Nathan danced a silent waltz through the mansion's corridors, avoiding being alone, exchanging glances laden with unconsummated desire when they thought no one was watching. But the walls had eyes and rumors began to spread. The first report appeared in a second-rate gossip magazine. Billionaire Nathan Blackwell finds comfort in the arms of the nanny. The photos were grainy, taken from a distance. Emily in the garden with Ethan, Nathan watching from the window. Nothing compromising, but enough to start a fire. "Have you seen this?" Mrs. Rodriguez threw the magazine onto the breakfast table, her face a mask of disapproval. Emily felt her stomach sink upon seeing the headline. "They're just speculations," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "It doesn't mean anything." "Nothing?" The housekeeper laughed humorlessly. "Darling, nothing is just nothing when it comes to the Blackwells. Evelyn Harrington has already called 3 times this morning." As if summoned by the mention of her name, the phone rang again. Mrs. Rodriguez answered, her expression darkening even more. "Yes, Mrs. Harrington, I understand. I'll inform him immediately." Emily didn't need to ask what it was about. The storm she so feared was coming. Upstairs, Ethan was playing with his toy cars, oblivious to the chaos forming. He had progressed so much in recent weeks, smiling more, talking more, even letting Emily hug him when he was frightened. How? To explain to him that everything could change. Emily? Nathan's voice made her jump. He was standing in the doorway, his face tense. I need to talk to you in the office. Her heart raced. The office meant a formal, professional conversation. It meant distance and protocols. It meant something was very wrong. Ethan, stay with Mrs. Rodriguez for a moment, okay? Emily kissed the top of the boy's head, memorizing the sensation of his soft hair against her lips, fearing it might be the last time. Nathan's office was different. Papers scattered across the desk, a half-empty whiskey bottle even though it was only 10 in the morning. He seemed to have aged years in a matter of days. Sit down, he ordered, his voice too controlled. I prefer to stand. Nathan ran his hand over his face, a gesture of fatigue she rarely saw. Evelyn has filed for custody. She has evidence. Evidence? Emily felt her blood freeze. Of what? Of us. He tossed an envelope onto the desk. Photos slid out. Her and Nathan in the library that night. The kiss in the kitchen. Moments that should have been private exposed on glossy paper. Someone on the staff is working for her. Emily picked up the photos with trembling hands. This doesn't prove anything. It proves enough. Nathan stood up, walking to the window. She'll use this to prove I'm negligent, that I'm putting my desires above Ethan's well-being. But that's not true, Emily advanced toward him. Ethan is better than ever. He's progressing, opening up. And how long until Evelyn destroys that too? Nathan turned to her, his eyes shining with contained anger. She'll expose everything, Emily. Your past, your family. You think I don't know about your brother, about his debts to dangerous people. Emily recoiled as if she'd been slapped. You investigated my life. Of course I did, he exploded. Do you think I hire someone to care for my son without checking everything? Every detail of your life, every late bill, every time. Your brother was arrested for drugs. Stop! Emily shouted, tears burning her eyes. You have no right. I have every right when it comes to my son. Nathan advanced toward her, his presence dominating the space. Evelyn will expose all of this. She'll transform you into a gold digger who seduced a rich widower to escape poverty. And Ethan, his voice faltered, Ethan will be dragged into the middle of it all. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily could hear her own heart beating, could feel each painful breath in her lungs. What do you want me to do? She finally asked, though she already knew the answer. Nathan closed his eyes as if he couldn't bear to look at her. You need to leave. No. The word came out as a sob. I can't abandon Ethan. He won't understand. He'll get over it. The coldness in Nathan's voice was worse than any shout. Children always do. Like he got over his mother, Emily shot back, instantly regretting it when she saw the pain cross his face. Nathan grabbed her arms, pulling her close. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her again. Instead, he rested his forehead against hers, his eyes tightly shut. Please, he whispered, don't make this harder. You're making a mistake, she replied, her voice choked. You're letting fear win. I'm protecting my son. Nathan moved away, recomposing his mask of coldness. Your last week's salary will be deposited today, and there will be a generous compensation to ensure your discretion. Emily felt as if each of his words was a stab. You think you can buy my silence, my feelings? Everyone has their price, Emily. He returned to his desk, no longer looking at her. Some are just higher than others. At that moment, something inside her broke. It wasn't just her heart. It was her faith in everything they had built in the last few weeks. You're wrong, she said, her voice surprisingly firm. Not everything can be bought, Nathan, and when you realize that, it might be too late. She walked to the door, her legs trembling but her determination unwavering. At the last moment, she turned one final time. Tell Ethan. Tell him that I... The words died in her throat. I'll tell him you had to leave. Nathan still wouldn't look at her. Like everyone always leaves. Emily closed the door softly behind her steps echoing through the corridors of the mansion that had become her home. In Ethan's room, she could hear his laughter as he played with Mrs. Rodriguez. In her own room, her few possessions seemed to scream memories that now hurt like open wounds. While packing her suitcase, she found the red toy car that Ethan had given her as a gift the week before. "So you never forget me," he had said, his small voice laden with fear of abandonment. The tears finally came, silent and relentless. Emily left the car on her made bed, a final symbol of everything she was leaving behind. In the garden, the swing moved gently with the breeze, like a pendulum marking the end of a dream that should never have begun. And in the office window, a solitary silhouette watched, a hand pressed against the glass as if wanting to reach out to her one last time. Emily didn't look back as she crossed the mansion's gates. She didn't see Ethan running to his bedroom window, his desperate screams muffled by the bulletproof glass. She didn't see Nathan knock everything off his desk in an access of fury and pain. What she didn't know, as she walked toward the bus stop with her small suitcase, was that her body carried a secret that would change everything. A life beginning. To grow inside her, a final gift from a night of love that both had tried to pretend never happened. The return to her old life was like plunging into icy water. Emily went back to the cafe, where her former boss received her with a mixture of pity and barely disguised curiosity. Customers whispered when she passed, some holding gossip magazines where her story with Nathan gained increasingly scandalous contours. But it wasn't the whispers that kept her awake at night. It was the constant nausea, the sore breasts, the signs she desperately tried to ignore, until on a particularly difficult morning, her mother found her bent over the toilet. "How long have you known?" Margaret asked, holding her daughter's hair with the gentleness only mothers possess. "I don't know anything," Emily replied automatically, but her hands were shaking. "Daughter." Her mother sighed, sitting on the bathroom floor beside her. "You were never good at lying to me." The tears came without warning, like a dam that finally gives way. Emily let herself be embraced by her mother, feeling again like a frightened little girl. "What am I going to do, Mum?" "First, let's be sure," Margaret helped her up. Then you decide what's best for you and this child." The pharmacy test only confirmed what her body was already screaming. Emily observed the two pink lines forming with a mixture of terror and fascination. A life, a small life that was part of her and part of Nathan. "Are you going to tell him?" Danny, her brother, asked during dinner. He had returned home a week ago, thinner and with new demons in his eyes, but trying, for the first time in years, really trying to change. "No," Emily was firm. "He made it very clear he doesn't want me in his life." "But it's not just about you anymore, sis." Danny played with the food on his plate. "This child has a right to a father. A father who treated me like a commodity that could be bought." Emily pushed away her own plate, the nausea returning. "Who preferred to believe the worst about me?" "He was afraid," Margaret intervened gently. "Sometimes fear makes us commit terrible mistakes." Emily was about to respond when the doorbell rang. Danny went to answer, returning with a worried expression and an envelope in his hands. "It's from Blackwell Estate." Emily's heart leaped. Could it be a letter from Nathan? An apology, perhaps? But upon opening the envelope, she found only a check with several zeros and a cold note. "As agreed. Please do not attempt any form of contact." Anger consumed her like fire. Without thinking twice, Emily tore the check into tiny pieces. "Emily!" her mother exclaimed, horrified. "That money could what? Buy my silence? My dignity?" Emily stood up, her hands protectively over her still flat stomach. "I won't let my child be born believing that everything has a price." That night, as she tried to sleep, Emily was surprised by sounds of argument coming from the living room. As she silently approached the door, she recognized her brother's voice. "You don't understand. They'll kill me if I don't pay." Danny sounded desperate. "How much?" Her mother's voice was tired. 50,000, by the end of the month." Emily felt her blood freeze. It was an amount they could never gather. The check she had torn. "I'll figure something out," she heard Danny promise. "Even if I have to." "Don't even think about it," Margaret interrupted him. "We already lost your father to crime. I won't lose you too." Emily returned to her room, her mind working furiously. There was a solution, one she had been avoiding considering. Picking up her cell phone, she dialed a number she knew by heart. "Mrs. Rodriguez, it's Emily. I need your help." The housekeeper remained silent for a moment. "Miss Emily, you shouldn't be calling me." "Please," Emily begged. "It's not for me, it's about Ethan. How is he?" A heavy sigh from the other end of the line. "Not well. Doesn't eat properly, started having nightmares again. Mr. Nathan." She hesitated. "He's not much better. I need to see him, just once." Emily took a deep breath. "Tomorrow is Evelyn's day to visit, isn't it? Nathan always leaves early on those days." "Emily." The warning tone in the housekeeper's voice was clear. "1 hour, that's all I ask. I need to say goodbye properly." More silence. Then, "Tomorrow, at 9, the kitchen door will be open." The next morning, Emily looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. Her reflection showed a different woman from the one who had left the mansion weeks ago. There was a new determination in her eyes, a purpose that went beyond her own broken heart. "I'll be back soon," she promised her mother, who watched her with concern. "Be careful," Margaret hugged her tightly, "with all your hearts." The mansion seemed even more imposing in the morning light. Emily skirted the gardens to the kitchen door, her heart beating erratically. Mrs. Rodriguez was waiting. For her. 5 minutes, the housekeeper warned. "He's in his room." Emily climbed the stairs silently, each step bringing memories that made her chest hurt. Ethan's bedroom door was ajar. She saw him sitting on the floor, surrounded by untouched toys. "Ethan," she called softly. The boy turned. So quickly he almost fell. His eyes widened, shining with unshed tears. "Emily!" She barely had time to kneel before he threw himself into her arms, sobbing. "You came back. You came back." "Shh, little one." Emily hugged him tightly, her own tears falling. "I needed to see you one last time. Don't go away." Ethan clung to her forcefully. "Please, please." Ethan? How to explain to a child that sometimes love isn't enough? That sometimes we need to let go even when every fiber of our being screams to stay? That's when she heard it. Footsteps in the corridor. Heavy, determined, familiar. What the hell is going on here? Nathan was standing in the doorway, his face a mask of fury. Hand shock. Emily rose slowly, keeping Ethan protected behind her. "Dad?" Ethan ran to Nathan, grabbing his leg. "Make her stay, please, Dad." The look Nathan gave Emily could have frozen hell. "Mrs. Rodriguez!" he called, his voice cutting. The housekeeper appeared immediately, looking mortified. "Sir, Take Ethan to have breakfast. It wasn't a request." "No." Ethan clung tighter to his father's leg. "I don't want her to go away again." Emily felt her heart break once more. "It's okay, Ethan." She knelt to his level. "Sometimes we need to be strong, remember? Like in the books we read?" The boy sobbed, but allowed Mrs. Rodriguez to take him. At the last moment, he turned. "I love you, Emily." The words hit both Emily and Nathan like a punch. For a moment, neither moved. Then, like a long-contained storm, Nathan exploded. "How dare you?" He advanced toward her. "After everything I did to protect him, you come back and—" "Protect?" Emily didn't back down. "Is that what you call what you did to him? To us?" "There is no us," Nathan roared. "There never was. It was a mistake. A mistake that's growing inside me." The words fell between them like a bomb. Nathan froze, his face losing all color. "What did you say?" Emily raised her chin, facing his gaze. "You heard me." "No." Nathan stumbled backward. "You're lying. It's a trick to—" "To do what?" Emily laughed humorlessly. "To get your money. I already proved what I think of it when I tore up your check." Nathan studied her in silence, his eyes scanning her face, her posture pausing for a moment on her hands that unconsciously protected her still flat stomach. "How long?" he finally asked, his voice hoarse. 8 weeks. About when you decided I wasn't trustworthy." Nathan closed his eyes, running his hand over his face in a gesture of pure weariness. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because—" Emily hesitated. This was the moment. the moment to swallow her pride, to do what needed to be done. Because I need your help. The silence that followed Emily's confession weighed like lead. Nathan stared at her with a mixture of emotions she couldn't completely decipher. Shock, disbelief, perhaps even fear. Help? He repeated the word as if it were foreign. What kind of help? Emily took a deep breath, hating every word she would have to say. My brother is in trouble. Debts. The kind of debt paid in blood if not settled. And you want me to pay? It wasn't a question. Nathan's face closed instantly. So that's it? The real reason for your visit? No. Emily advanced a step toward him, frustration and hurt mixing in her voice. I came because Ethan needed proper closure. Because we needed... We? Nathan laughed humorlessly. There is no we, Emily. You said that yourself when you tore up my check. There is a we growing inside me, she shouted, her hands protectively over her stomach. A life that didn't ask to be born in the middle of this mess we created. The sound of footsteps in the hallway interrupted them. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at the door, her face pale. Sir, Mrs. Harrington has just arrived, earlier than expected. Nathan cursed under his breath. Take Emily through the back, now. No. Emily planted her feet firmly on the ground. I won't run away anymore like a criminal. This child is as much a Blackwell as anyone in this house. As if to confirm her words, the sound of Evelyn's voice echoed through the hallway. Nathan? Where are you, dear? I brought the lawyers with me today. Panic crossed Nathan's face. In a quick movement, he grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her into his own bedroom, silently closing the door behind them. Have you lost your mind? He whispered, furiously. Evelyn can't see you here. Emily found herself momentarily distracted by her surroundings. Nathan's bedroom was surprisingly simple for a man of his position. A king-size bed with dark sheets, a reading armchair by the window, and, on the nightstand, she froze. There, in a silver frame, was a photo of her with Ethan in the garden, laughing while playing on the swing. You kept, she murmured, touching the frame with trembling fingers. Nathan followed her gaze, and for a moment, his mask of coldness wavered. Emily! There was a softness in his voice she hadn't heard in weeks. Knocks on the door made them jump. Nathan? Is the door locked? One moment, Evelyn, he called back, then turned to Emily, his eyes intense. How much does your brother owe? 50,000, Emily whispered, hating herself for having to ask, hating fate for putting her in this position. Nathan nodded briefly, picking up his phone. He quickly typed something and showed her the screen. A completed bank transfer. It's done. His voice was neutral. Now go, use the service staircase. Emily felt tears burn her eyes. Is it that easy for you? To send me away again? Easy. Nathan advanced toward her, his face inches from hers. You think it's easy to see you here? Knowing you're carrying my child and having to let you go? You think it's easy to see Ethan wither like a flower without sun since you left? You think it's easy to wake up every day and see your photo, remembering everything I threw away out of fear? Then don't throw it away again, Emily begged, her hands finding his face. Fight for us this time. For a moment, it seemed he would yield. His hands covered hers, his eyes closing at the touch. But then the knocks on the door returned, more insistent. Nathan, the lawyers don't have all day. You need to go. He abruptly moved away. Use that money to start over somewhere. Hell's far from here, far from all this madness. And our child, are you going to pretend it doesn't exist too? Nathan turned to the window, his back rigid. I'll set up a fund for the child. You'll never have to worry about money. I don't want your money, Emily exploded. I want you. I want our child. To have a father. I want Ethan to have the family he deserves. The family he deserves? Nathan turned, his eyes shining with fury and pain. The family he deserves doesn't include a stepmother that society will destroy, that the newspapers will transform into a gold digger, that Evelyn will use to take him from me. So that's it. Emily backed away, understanding finally hitting her like a slap. You're choosing your reputation over true love again. I'm choosing to protect my son. No? Emily shook her head, tears freely running down her face. You're choosing to protect your fear. More knocks on the door, now accompanied by Mrs. Rodriguez's voice. Mr. Blackwell, Mrs. Harrington is getting impatient. Go. Nathan no longer looked at her. Please. Emily walked to the door, each step weighing a ton. Before leaving, however, she turned one last time. You know what the difference is between Melissa and me, Nathan? She ran away from problems. I'm willing to face them. Too bad you're not. She didn't wait for a response. She ran down the service stairs, passed through the kitchen like a ghost, ignoring Mrs. Rodriguez's concerned call. She only stopped when she reached the gate, her legs trembling so much they barely supported her. That's when she heard it. Ethan's voice coming from the garden. Grandma, why did Emily have to go away? Evelyn's answer came crystal clear. Because people like her don't belong in our world, dear. Your father finally understood that. Emily stumbled away from the gates, one hand over her mouth to stifle her sobs, the other protectively over her stomach. The money to save Danny was secure, but the price had been her last hope of happiness. What she didn't see was Nathan, still in his room, taking the photo of her with Ethan and hugging it against his chest, while silent tears ran down his face. What she didn't hear was Ethan. Hours later, shouting at his father for the first time in his life, "You let her go away again. I hate you." And what nobody saw was Evelyn alone in her car after leaving the mansion, making a call. It's done. The girl won't be a problem anymore. Now, about those proofs you got for me. In the small back house where Emily grew up, Margaret was waiting on the porch. Seeing her daughter's state, she opened her arms without saying anything. Emily threw herself into them like a child, her body shaking with sobs. He chose fear again, Mom, she whispered through tears. He always chooses fear. Margaret rocked her daughter gently, her hands caressing her hair as she did when she was little. Sometimes, honey, people need to lose everything to realize what really matters. What neither of them knew was that at that exact moment a letter was being delivered to Blackwell Estate. A letter that would change everything, because sometimes fate has a very peculiar way of teaching the lessons we refuse to learn. The letter arrived in a simple envelope, with no return address. Mrs. Rodriguez found it mixed with the normal morning mail, and by some instinct, she couldn't even explain herself, decided to deliver it personally to Nathan instead of leaving it on the usual tray. Nathan was in his office, as always. In the last weeks, since Emily's last visit, he practically lived there, drowning himself in work and whiskey. Ethan refused to speak to him, except to express his anger in increasingly frequent outbursts. "A letter, sir." The housekeeper placed the envelope on his desk. "It arrived today." He barely raised his eyes from the documents he was analyzing. "Leave it with the rest of the correspondence. It's from the clinic, from Switzerland." The whiskey glass Nathan was holding slipped from his fingers, spilling amber liquid over important documents, but he didn't seem to notice. His eyes were fixed on the envelope, as if it were a bomb about to explode. With trembling hands, he opened it. Melissa's handwriting, always so elegant, now trembled slightly at the edges, as if she had struggled to maintain control while writing. "Nathan, if you're reading this letter, it means I finally found the courage to send it. Or perhaps it means something happened to me. In that case, the nurses have instructions to send it anyway. There are so many things that need to be said, so many requests for forgiveness that I don't even know where to begin. But I'll start with the most important. You were right about everything. About my illness, about how I needed help, about how I was hurting our son. Ethan, my little Ethan. How can a mother hurt her own child so much? Depression is a cruel liar, Nathan. It made me see monsters where there was only love. It made me hear accusations in an innocent baby's cry. It made me transform our son into a scapegoat for a pain that was all mine. But there's something else you need to know. Something your former mother-in-law, yes, Evelyn, made me promise never to tell. She knew, Nathan, she knew about my episodes, my crises, long before you discovered. She found me once, locking Ethan in the dark room. Instead of reporting me, of telling you, she manipulated me. said that if I told anyone, she would ensure you never saw Ethan again. That she would use my illness to prove you were a negligent father for not having noticed sooner. Fear paralyzed me. Evelyn became my jailer and accomplice. She promised to help me control the situation, while in reality, she only made it worse. When you finally discovered the truth, when you finally confronted me, it was almost a relief, but the damage was already done. The terror in Ethan's eyes when he saw me, the way he would shrink at the sound of my voice. I couldn't pretend. Everything was okay anymore. That's why I agreed to come here. That's why I let you believe it had been an abandonment. The treatment is working, Nathan. Slowly, but it is. For the first time in years, I can clearly see the monster I became, and that's why I need you to know everything. Not for you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness, but to protect Ethan, to prevent Evelyn from doing to other people what she did to me. I've attached to this letter evidence, emails, recordings, bank transfer records, everything that proves her involvement in the conspiracy to hide my illness. Use it as you see fit, but please don't let her hurt anyone else. And Nathan, I knew about the nanny, Emily, isn't it? Ethan spoke of her in the letters you sent. For the first time since I had him, my son wrote about love, about feeling safe. Don't let Evelyn destroy that too. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let fear defeat love. With eternal regret, Melissa. Nathan let the letter fall onto the desk, his world spinning. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had remained silent during the reading, took a step forward. Sir. How long? He interrupted her, his voice hoarse. How long have you known? The housekeeper lowered her eyes. I suspected. Mrs. Harrington, she spent a lot of time with Mrs. Blackwell. Always afterward there were screams, crying. But I never imagined, and I never saw. Nathan stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. I was too busy being the great Nathan Blackwell. Too busy to see my son being tortured, my wife being manipulated, and now... His voice failed. Now I'm doing it all over again. Letting Evelyn destroy the only chance at happiness Ethan has had since then. It's not too late, sir. Isn't it? He laughed bitterly. Emily is pregnant, Rodriguez, pregnant with my child, and I sent her away, twice. Like Melissa, I chose fear. Like Melissa, I let Evelyn win. Then don't let her win a third time. The housekeeper's voice had an unusual firmness. Miss Emily, she's different, she fights, and she loves that boy as if he were her own. Nathan picked up the photo on his desk, Emily and Ethan laughing on the swing. He ran his fingers over her face, remembering her touch, her courage, how she faced all obstacles just to give Ethan a little joy. I need your help, Rodriguez. What do you intend to do, sir? A determined smile appeared on his lips, the first in weeks. I'm going to fight. I'm finally going to fight for what matters. But before he could take a step toward the door, it opened violently. Evelyn entered like a hurricane, her eyes shining with a fury he had never seen. How dare you? She brandished a paper in his direction. I just received a notification from your lawyer canceling the custody action. After everything I did for you, for this family. Family? Nathan interrupted her, his voice cutting like ice. What? Family, Evelyn. The one you helped destroy when you let Melissa torture my son, or the one you're trying to destroy now, pushing away the only person who brought light back to this house. Evelyn paled. What are you talking about? In response, Nathan threw Melissa's letter on the table. Read it. Then tell me how you could. How you could see your own grandson suffer and do nothing. I did what was necessary, Evelyn exploded, to protect the family name, to maintain appearances. Appearances? Nathan advanced toward her. Ethan was 3 years old, 3 years, and you let him suffer to maintain the damn appearances. You don't understand, Evelyn tried to argue, but Nathan cut her off. No, Evelyn, for the first time in my life I understand perfectly. He picked up his phone, dialing quickly. Hello, this is Nathan Blackwell. Call the press, all networks, I have a story to tell. Evelyn's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. No. Nathan smiled, but it was a smile without humor. Watch me. He turned to Mrs. Rodriguez. Where is Ethan? In his room. Sir, as always, get him ready, we're going out. Where? Evelyn asked, her face a mask of panic. Nathan grabbed his keys, Melissa's letter, and the photo of Emily. I'm going to find my family. My real family. But when he opened the office door, he found Ethan standing there, silent tears running down his face. Are you going to bring Emily back? The boy asked, his small voice laden with hope. Nathan knelt in front of his son, gently drying his tears. Yes, son. If she'll still have us, I'm bringing her back, and this time I promise no one will separate our family. Ethan smiled, the first genuine smile in weeks. Can I come too? Of course you can. Nathan picked him up, feeling his heart expand with love. We'll go together to find our Emily. What they didn't know was that, at that exact moment, Emily was facing her own battle, one that would change the course of all their lives forever. The small back room was silent, except for the soft sound of the heart monitor. Emily lay in the hospital bed, pale but stable, while Margaret held her hand tightly. The doctor had just left, after assuring that both mother and baby were out of danger. It was just a scare, Emily murmured, her voice still weak. The doctor said it's normal to have complications in early pregnancy. Normal? Danny exploded from the corner of the room where he was sitting. You fainted in the middle of the cafe. Your body is exhausted from working so much, sis. You can't continue like this. Emily closed her eyes, too tired to argue. The doctor had been clear. She needed absolute rest for the next few days. But how? The bills didn't stop coming, and even with the money Nathan had given to pay Danny's debt, their savings were running out. A commotion in the hallway caught her attention. Raised voices, hurried footsteps, and then, where is she? Nathan's voice cut through the air like thunder. Emily! Before anyone could react, he burst through the door, Ethan in his arms. The boy squirmed until he was put on the ground, immediately running to the bed. Emily! He cried, trying to climb onto the mattress. Are you sick? Hey, little one. Emily smiled, helping him settle beside her. I'm fine, just a little tired. Nathan remained standing at the door, his face a mixture of concern and guilt. Margaret stood up, a determined expression on her tired face. Danny, she called, let's let them talk. But Mom. Now, son. When they were alone, except for Ethan, who refused to let go of Emily's hand, silence weighed like lead. Nathan finally approached the bed, his eyes fixed on the heart monitor. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was hoarse. When I found out you were in the hospital. How did you know? Emily interrupted him. Mrs. Rodriguez. He gave a half smile. She has her ways. Emily nodded, unconsciously stroking Ethan's hair, who was already dozing beside her. It wasn't anything serious, just a bout of sickness. Don't lie to me. Nathan sat in the chair Margaret had occupied. Not anymore. Something in his voice made Emily really look at him for the first time since he had entered the room. There was something different in his eyes, a determination she had never seen before. I received a letter today, he continued, from Melissa. Emily felt her heart accelerate, the heart monitor betraying her agitation. Nathan took her free hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. She revealed everything, Emily. About Evelyn, about how she manipulated the entire situation, about how fear made us make the worst decisions. Nathan. No. He squeezed her hand. Let me finish. All my life, I've let fear guide me. Fear of disappointing, fear of failing, fear of loving. I let that fear destroy my marriage, hurt my son, and almost, his voice failed, almost lost the best thing that ever happened in our lives. Silent tears ran down Emily's face. Nathan dried them with his thumb, his touch gentle as a breeze. I gave an interview today, he continued. I told everything. About Melissa, about Evelyn, about how she tried to manipulate our lives, and about you. Emily froze. What? I told how you saved my son, how you brought light back to our house, how you made me believe in love again. He smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his eyes. And how I was a complete idiot for letting you go. But your reputation, what will people say? To hell with people. Nathan stood up, carefully sitting on the edge of the bed so as not to wake Ethan. I'm tired of living for others. Tired of being afraid. With delicacy, he placed his hand on Emily's still flat stomach. This baby's our baby. Deserves to be born into a family based on love, not appearances. Ethan deserves to grow up knowing that sometimes we need to fight for what's right, not what's easy. And what is right? Emily whispered, her heart beating so hard it seemed to want to leap from her chest. In response, Nathan knelt beside the bed, still holding her hand. Marry me. Emily blinked, sure she had heard wrong. What? Marry me, he repeated, firmer this time. Not because of the baby, not because of Ethan, but because I love you. Because you make me want to be a better man. Because life without you is like living without air. But it's too soon. There's so much. Time is an illusion when it comes to true love. Nathan smiled. And we've already lost too much time with fear. Ethan chose this moment to wake up, his sleepy eyes opening slowly. Are you getting married? Emily looked at the boy, then at Nathan, her heart overflowing with love for both. Yes, she answered, finally letting all her own barriers fall. Yes, we are. The joy on Ethan's face illuminated the entire room. Then you're going to be my real mom? Oh, my love. Emily hugged him tightly. I already am your mom. Here. She placed her hand over his heart. Nathan joined the embrace, enveloping both with his strong arms. And there, in that small hospital room, a real family was born. Not of blood or duty, but of the purest and truest love. Months later, when Emily gave birth to a girl with her father's eyes and her mother's smile, the headline wasn't about scandals or appearances. It was about love, about how sometimes we need to completely break to rebuild ourselves stronger, about how true love knows no barriers of class or society. Ethan, now a proud older brother, was no longer afraid of the dark. Nathan no longer lived trapped in the past, and Emily finally found her place in the world, not as the nanny who conquered a billionaire, but as the woman who taught an entire family to love without fear. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how much money you have, what name you carry, or what mask you wear for the world. What matters is the courage to be true, to fight for love, to choose happiness even when the whole world says you don't deserve it. And in that house, which was once so silent, now echoed laughter, baby cries, and the most precious sound of all. The sound of hearts beating in sync, free from fear, full of love.